I have this shelf from IKEA that I want to color white. This is a shelf that I bought for $26. I took off this shelf from here. I wanted to paint it as a whole, but I decided that when the white color goes on the screws, it doesn't look good. So I'm going to take this off and paint it shelf by shelf, and then I will see how it will look. To open these screws, the IKEA stuff, they come with their own screwdriver, but if you don't have one, I bought this from Canadian Tire. It's $5.32. Here is all you need, and I'm going to explain what are these. So this is foam brush that I want to apply the primer. I got them from dollar store for $1.50. $1 paint tray, and this brush for applying the paint for $1.50, and some extra rollers for $1.25, 3 extra rollers for $1.25. You need some latex gloves and some sandpaper. It's suggested to use $1.50. I got these for $5.5 from Walmart, and it's a sorted one, so it has like 80, 120, 180, 220 paper. So they didn't have $1.50. That's why I bought these. But I would suggest to go with $1.20, or if you are going to go with 80, then go with $1.20 and $1.80 after that. You can get those blocks that you can roll your sandpaper around them for. They are $5, but since I want to be cheap towards the project, so I'm using just the scotch. And the most expensive pieces are these primer and paint. So the primer is suggested to be water-based primer. This is a primer that I use for dry walls, so it can absorb by the wood. And this is the paint. These cost me $40, and I got them from Home Depot. So overall, probably I spent $60. So if your IKEA furniture doesn't worth much, then I would say $80, and you don't care about the time that you're putting, so just go and buy the furniture in white, because probably IKEA has everything in black and white. But if you have leftover paints, or if you are going to use this material for 2 or 3 or more IKEA furniture, then go for it. Here are all the pieces of the shelves that I have. I sanded down that one. I will show you later. It took me 25 minutes, and I'm probably the slowest person in the world to take everything off. So be careful, be very gentle with the pieces, because if you damage a piece, then the whole project doesn't worth it. So what you have to do when painting the IKEA furniture, so they are MDF, and they are covered by, I'm not sure if you can see, a piece of laminate. So you're actually painting the laminate, and the laminate is made of melamine, and so you have to take the shine down and then apply the primer, then apply the paint. So I sand this down with 80. There are scratches on it, so you have to sand it down until you won't see any shine. I'm still able to see some shines here, but it did actually a pretty good job. And it took me like 15 minutes to go and sand both sides of this shelf down. I'm going to go over it one more time with $1.20. I'm going to show you the difference between the one that I sanded and the shiny one that I didn't sand yet. This is the last piece. Each piece took me about 15 minutes. I just wanted to show you that you need to use a mask when you are sanding, because you don't want all that nanoparticles to go in your mask. And then after you finish sanding, you need the rubbing alcohol to go over it. So I'm going to clean this. So if you don't use rubbing alcohol and use water, you have to wait 3 days for your wood to dry completely. If you don't, then your paint will peel off. So let me show you. I need to rub it and see how much dust come off. Here I am applying the primer. The primer is water-based and it looks white on it at first, but when it dries clear. If I want to do this project again, the one thing that I would change is that after the primer dries, I would go over it with the sandpaper and then clean it and then put the paint on it and to make a surface for the paint to stick. Here I'm applying the paint. I used the roller, and the foam roller had texture, and so when it dries I had texture on my paint, which I didn't mind. It was not that bad, but if I wanted to do this project again, I would use a foam roller that is for the flat surfaces. Also, the roller was absorbent, so I think it absorbed a lot of paint, and I lost a lot of paint due to the foam roller. So if I wanted to do this project again, I would use a brush, because I think the brush would use much less paint than the foam roller. Also, between the paints, I would go with the light sanding, just a touch of sanding over the first layer of paint. Then I would clean it and then apply the second layer of paint. Here I'm testing the final product. So on the shelf, if I put my finger, my nail, and my nail, I cannot scratch it. But if I on the side, if I try to scratch, yes, I can peel it off. If I work hard, I can peel it off. And I think that's a good. That's not that bad. I'm not gonna probably try to rub my nails on it all the time. I think it will hold pretty good for this shelf. Maybe if it was a table, it was a desk for me, it would have scratches, but for this shelf I'm gonna put flowers on top of it and put it aside. I'm not moving it. If it's after 4 days of paint, I would say if it's like 1 day or 2 and you put a heavy object on top of it, and then when moving it you might have scratches on top of it. So let it sit outside, or just let it sit for a few days and then put objects on top of it. Overall, I'm happy with the project. I think it lightened the room. That was my objective for this project, because I think in a small room, darker shades would look smaller. And by painting this white, I achieved my goal. So I want to call it a successful uneconomic project.
It was my first time painting, and it was kind of fun for me. But if you are painting this to save some money, it's not gonna save you money. You are paying for the paint more than you are paying for the actual product if you wanted to buy the shelf. However, I'm going to paint my other furniture. So I have a desk that I don't think that would take much paint, and this desk cost me $80. So I think that project would worth it to be done.